But the other guaranteed benefit is the tax scholarships, we call them, or the tax savings. Because if you're a high income family, you might not get financial aid. Even if you follow our process, it could help. But some families make millions of dollars and they have millions of dollars. There's nothing they can do to get financial aid. And some families are going to go to top tier Ivy League schools that don't give a lot of scholarships. So the guaranteed free money that everyone can get is that when you buy that $1 million house, it's going to offset your income by about $300,000 with the bonus depreciation and all that tax benefit. That's going to save somebody over $100,000 in taxes if they're in the top tax bracket. That's more than 1 year at an Ivy League college. So you're saving you're getting like an entire year of college for free by buying that house.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the STR Investing Podcast. I'm your co-host Mark Lumpkin, and today I'm bringing you one of my friends, a really cool guest, and he's going to talk about all the stuff that we love about short-term rentals from a different angle, from a different spin, and really kind of get you thinking when you finish this podcast. So Lance, welcome, man. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Mark, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited as well, man. Would you just do a quick introduction? Just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, a little background on you.
Yeah, so Lance Morgan from Utah, and I have 5 kids. So I started freaking out about how I was going to help them pay for college. And that led me to starting College Funding Secrets, which is basically helping high-income families find creative ways to pay for college. And that led me to the infamous short-term rental loophole that led me to you. And that's how we met.
I love that, man. So how old are your kids? Like, what's the range? Who's your youngest? Who's your oldest?
Oh, so my oldest is 22. My second oldest is 20. I've got 2 in high school and 1 in elementary school.
Okay, cool. So you've got one in college, 1 or 2 in college, couple riding around the corner, and then a few years on the other one. I know that this is not necessarily a brand new adventure for you guys. Been after it for a little bit, but in years past, you weren't in the short-term rental space, correct?
Yeah, it's only been about 18 months because we were helping families use creative ways to pay for college and things were going well. And my income, increased to the point where I was focusing on tax strategies and trying to find ways to reduce taxes. I was not thinking about short-term rentals as a way of paying for college. It was more of a way to lower my own personal taxes. And then as I was learning about it, and I was learning about how it could reduce your income, I thought, hey, there's an angle where we could even help families qualify for some financial aid. Because to lower your income, you could qualify for financial aid. And then I started putting 2 and 2 together, and I thought, well, hey, we could take this short-term rental and we could use that to pay for college. And then it would also pay for retirement. So instead of a 529 account that you just spend and the money's gone, you could take your college savings and buy a short-term rental. The short-term rental would pay for college and keep paying you income for retirement.
I love that, man. That's really, really cool. And I'm someone with little kids, and I've got a 529 too. We put a little money away into as well. But for me, at least, forward thinking, I'm wondering how much college is going to cost in 20 years or 15 years when my kids are off there. And I'm like, if it's 30 or 40 grand a year right now, what is it going to be in 15 years? Like, this is ridiculous. And I don't even know, me and my wife were joking, we're like, we don't even know if the money we're setting aside is even going to make a scratch or a dent at what this could potentially be costing our kids. I love the kind of creative thinking behind what you guys are doing. And I think that the traditional way of thinking about saving for college is obviously not the most financially beneficial. It's not the best way to do it. But frankly, it might not even work in 15 or 20 years when some of the people listening as kids, like, college might cost $100 grand a year in 20 years.
And so it does. It actually does cost $100 grand a year now. There you go. Yeah. At some of these top tier private schools, it is ridiculous. It's crazy.
That's just nuts. And so as you guys started to kind of expand into the short-term rental space, well, actually here, let's rewind a little bit, because I'd love to learn just briefly about what were some of the strategies and tactics that you used to help people qualify or take advantage of for college before you started exploring the short-term rental loophole?
Yeah, so before real estate, we taught people how to use particular life insurance policies because the money was sheltered from financial aid. So if you put money into a 529 account, it's going to count against you when you qualify for financial aid. So we would teach families how to use like Roth IRAs or life insurance, vehicles that were not going to count against you when it comes to financial aid. However, when they look at your assets, that's just one of the things they look at. It's also your income. So you could have $200,000 saved in a 529 account, and that would hurt you, but not as much as your income would hurt you. So we were only solving half the problem. You know, if we helped families move their money into a vehicle like life insurance that didn't hurt their financial aid, that didn't solve the fact that they had too much income. So what's beautiful about the tax benefits, we call them tax scholarships, is what's beautiful about the tax benefits is that it lowers your income, helping you qualify for financial aid. So we were helping families, you know, save some money for college, but not as much as we can help them with now.
I got you. So there's really two pieces to this. One, it's your total assets, but there are certain assets that do not qualify, right?
That's correct.
And so you were teaching people to basically say, hey, don't invest in that asset because that's going to hurt your eligibility for scholarships and financial aid. Do invest in this asset because it's not off the books, but it's just not a negative for you. So that was one piece of it. And then piece number two is just your W-2 income. What do you make every year? And that is one of the hardest things for people to get around and overcome, right?
That's correct. Now, and for some people, they don't like life insurance because most people just don't understand it. It can be done correctly. But let's say that you don't like it for whatever reason. Another way that you can reposition some of your money is in real estate. So, for example, let's say that you take your $200,000 from your 529 account and you just go, put it all down on a house. Well, now you have equity in that house that still counts against you. But let's say that you put the minimum down payment of, let's say, 10% down, and then let's say that they pay you to come in and do all the design and the theming and the pickleball courts and all that kind of stuff. That money doesn't count against you on the financial aid because the schools have no idea that you just put money into a pickleball court. That doesn't show up as an asset. And so it's a way to reposition some of their money. They could take their 529 account money, they could put it into a short-term rental, they could pay you to come in and remodel it and everything. And it's another way of kind of repositioning that money to lower their financial aid.
Interesting. So equity in properties or paper equity, when you make large down payments, is going to negatively affect your ability to get some of that financial aid.
Yep. But it's also pretty easy to put $200,000 down on $1 million house and say that it's an $800,000 house. They don't require you to do an appraisal or anything, so it's pretty easy to say, oh, this house is only worth $800,000, even though you just paid $1 million for it. But there's a fine line there.
Yeah. Interesting. You maybe are saving 10%, but you're not sheltering all of that money.
Correct. But it's, again, sheltering the money is only half the equation. It's that income that hurts you the most. And so most families with money in a 529 account or most families with money in brokerage accounts, they're also making a lot of money. They have a high income.
Which gave them the ability to save that money. And so that makes sense. Is there a threshold? Is there like a target annual salary that you guys have found that is hey, you don't want to show them making more than 75 grand a year or 100 grand a year? Is there a number that's kind of that cap for a lot of the financial aids and scholarships and things like that?
So we have a financial aid calculator where we can help a family kind of lower their number to get financial aid. But here's some really rough numbers. About 20% of your income and about 5% of your asset. So if you make $100,000 a year, you're going to have a $20,000 financial aid number. And if you have assets, let's say you have $100,000 in assets, maybe your number is now $25,000. So if the cost of college is $35,000, you take $35,000 and subtract it from your number that's $25,000 and you qualify for $10,000 in financial aid. But if you could show zero income and zero assets, now all of a sudden you qualify for lots of financial aid.
Super interesting, man. And it's like something that before I met you, I never even thought about, right? But that's because I don't have 5 kids that are college age. And so if somebody listening right now is like, yeah, Mark, holy, we're paying a whole lot of money and we're co-signing on loans and taking out student debt and all this stuff. You're also, I wonder what it looks like when you zoom out and you're holistically looking at the whole thing. And you say, hey, option A is you use your 529C, you borrow student loan debt at 10% interest, you da 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 da, and you calculate what that total cost is. Or you say, hey, option B is you lower your taxable income, you buy an asset that cash flows, you get financial aid, you are making money on your debt instead of costing yourself money on your debt. And you look at that, I bet you they're drastic. Like, do you have any idea of, like, we're a family of 4 with 2 kids going to college. What's the total potential difference between the traditional way and then your guys' way?
So it's actually in the millions, believe it or not, because when you pay $250,000 for your kid's college, that money is gone. And so there's what we call the secret cost of college, which is the opportunity cost. In other words, what could that $250,000 have earned in interest over the years, and how much could that have grown to in your retirement? And it's going to be well over $1 million in your retirement that you're not going to have because you just paid for college. So $250,000 for college is going to cost you over $1 million in retirement, is the gist of it. Now, here's what's ironic though. If you take that exact same $250,000 and put it towards $1 million short-term rental, 25% down, 10% for the down payment, 15% to do some furnishings and stuff, right? So if you put 25% down on $1 million house, that $1 million house should cash flow what? I mean, you're the expert. I'll leave that up to you. But like,
yeah, if you're cash flowing a couple of grand a month, 2, 3, 4 grand a month, whatever, yeah,
that will pay for the $250,000 of college. So you would take out the college loans if you have a senior in high school and it's go time. You would take out the college loans, and then in 5 years when the kid graduates, 4.5, 5 years, you could have all that cash flow coming in that would just cover those loan payments. But then here's the beauty of it. So the same $250,000 that you were going to pay for college buys you a short-term rental that still pays for college. So you're still paying for college with that $250,000, but you're paying for it with the house. The house is paying for it, right?
Because your student loan, and I'm not an expert in this because I didn't go to college, but your student loan debt during the time you were in college does not accrue any interest. Is that correct?
It does accrue interest, but you can defer the payments until after graduation. And so you can defer payments until after graduation. So if you have a senior in high school, take out the college loans to pay for college, put your money towards short-term rentals. In 4.5 to 5 years, you take the cash flow to cover the loan payment. And then when the loans are paid off, the cash flow is still coming in.
I love that. And then you get the appreciation of the property, because what's the property going to be worth? $1 million house today versus in 5 years, we know it's, based upon history, it's going to likely be more. And if we look at it in 50 years, it's probably going to be double. And so that's where you said the hidden cost is in the millions. And when you first hear it, you're like, there's no way. But when you look at it over the life expectancy, it is probably in the millions.
It is in the millions. It's either in the millions that you're going to lose or the millions that you're going to have, depending on which choice you make. It's literally $1 million decision, which is crazy. But the other guaranteed benefit is the tax scholarships, we call them, or the tax savings. Because if you're a high income family, you might not get financial aid. Even if you follow our process, it could help. But some families make millions of dollars and they have millions of dollars. There's nothing they can do to get financial aid. And some families are going to go to top tier Ivy League schools that don't give a lot of scholarships. So the guaranteed free money that everyone can get is that when you buy that $1 million house, it's going to offset your income by about $300,000 with the bonus depreciation and all that tax benefit. That's going to save somebody over $100,000 in taxes if they're in the top tax bracket. That's more than 1 year at an Ivy League college. So you're saving you're getting like an entire year of college for free by buying that house.
That's so cool. Okay, so what do most people say when you tell them this, right? When like people find you and like, what's the typical reaction?
It's always the same. It's always too good to be true.
It's always too good to be true. And I kind of wondered the same thing as well. But as we've gotten to know each other and I've really seen it in practice, it's super interesting. So once somebody gets over the it's too good to be true, what's the next steps for them?
So we've built lots of tools. We've built lots of tools to show them the numbers so that they can actually see it, right? I think it's more believable once you start seeing it all. And once you see the cost of college, you see the savings, you see the tax benefits. And we customize everything to the family. So we're going to go in and take their exact situation with their schools. We have a college search tool. We have a financial aid calculator tool. We have all these tools. We're going to go through and play this all out. And so we're going to show them their tax savings. We're going to show them the cost of college. We're going to show them the estimated, revenue that it can make, the cash flow, the whole 9 yards. Then they start to see it. But a lot of these high income families don't have a lot of time. So then one of the options that we offer is that we'll do everything for them. We'll partner with them. Right? We're going to go find the house. We're going to close on the house. We're going to set everything up in an LLC, and then we'll just have them own half of the LLC. We own half of the LLC. The house is owned by the LLC, and we go into it 50-50. They're the financial partner. We're the working partner. And then we can work with somebody like you to come in and help design it and do all the setup and everything. We do all the heavy lifting. They just get to benefit from it. I mean, obviously there's some tax qualifications that they have to meet, but other than that, we do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, that's really cool because anything in life is going to require one of three things, or two or three things. It's going to require time, money, or energy. And you've got to be able to bring one of those to the table. And so what you guys have done is create a structure where people can come in with the money, they can receive a lot of the tax benefits, some of the profits of the property, things like that. And then you guys can handle that acquisitions, partner with us for the setup, do the management, because I would assume that after you said people are like, oh, this is too good to be true, the next question is, oh man, well, I'm a doctor in California and I got 5 kids, or I'm a doctor in Utah and I got 5 kids. I don't have time to go out and set up a property and build furniture and deal with guest messages and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that everyone, generally speaking, they know that real estate is a good investment. They've probably heard, or they could do a quick Google search and learn about the short-term rental loophole and realize that these tax savings are legit, and that this is definitely something that the administration is pushing, and that real estate tax benefits are legal. It is ethical, So it doesn't take much for somebody to realize real estate's a good investment. These tax benefits are awesome, but I just don't have the time, like you said, right? So that's where they love, having somebody that can just do everything for them, and then they can take advantage, of everything. And then the other skeptical side is where they don't think that it's going to cash flow, or they don't think it's going to make money, or they think that the markets are too saturated now and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that this is I know one of your messages that you're always talking about is that there's plenty of room at the top. At the top of the market, there's not a lot of competition at the top of the market. There's plenty of competition at the bottom and at the middle of the market, but not a lot of competition at the top of the market. And so I guess my disclaimer in all of this is that you can't just go grab grandma's old house with her old furniture in it and throw it on Airbnb and expect for everything to work out like we've been talking about, right? So in order for this to work out, like we've been talking about, it needs to be done right. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir. I know that's what you guys talk about, right? But like a lot of people are skeptical because they don't think that these houses can make money and, and all that kind of stuff. And if it's done right, it works great.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. What's interesting is most of our listeners are kind of the individual mom and pop investors that are hyper focused on short-term rentals. And so what I think the takeaway for a lot of them is they've just never even thought about the college savings. And they know that there's benefits to buying short-term rentals. There's the cash flow, there's the appreciation, there's the depreciation, but how that loops into getting your kids off to college, I think is really, really powerful. What's next for you guys? I know this is like, you're a couple years in now and we were less than a year into the big, beautiful bill. What do you see the future of this thing going for you guys? Do you continue to grow? Do you scale into something different? What's next?
So I'll tell you the master plan. The master plan is to scale as fast as humanly possible because the message is resonating. We are bringing on 30 to 50 new clients a month. We expect to be at around 150 clients a month within 90 days. Like, we are growing really fast. So scaling is number one. We're trying to change an industry. We're trying to change how people pay for college and, quite frankly, how people pay for retirement too. So scaling is number one. And then number two, we have this other plan to have, we call these scholarship houses, because these scholarship houses are a better way to pay for college. But then our other project is scholarship vacations, where all of these scholarship houses will be on kind of like a boutique Airbnb site where somebody could go to scholarshipHouses.com and rent one of these scholarship houses to stay in on their next vacation. And that way they are supporting that child's education. So by renting a scholarship house from one of our clients, you're helping that kid, be able to pay for his college education by helping his family, with their short-term rental. And so I want to create this community of all these scholarship houses and encourage everyone to rent a scholarship house through scholarshipvacations.com to be able to support everybody's college education.
Dude, that's awesome. What we need to do is we need to start getting some of these houses in college towns, right? Because I don't know. Have you had people say, "Hey, I'd like to buy one in the the city that my kid's going to be going to college"? We can theme them out. If you're in Eugene, Oregon, we go all Ducks. If you're in Auburn, Alabama, we go all Auburn. Like, you could do some really cool themed houses, and then you've got the other benefit of having a property to stay at when you go to visit your kid off at college.
That is actually one of the plans. That's correct. Those are awesome markets. Those are markets that have a lot of growth potential. And that is definitely one of the goals, is to double down on some college towns in addition to your traditional short-term rental vacations.
Cool. I love that. I think that's really, really cool. So we had talked earlier about, and we don't have to get super deep into this, but I'd love to just touch on it. So maybe some non-traditional avenues that you guys have seen that are not just the normal short-term rental house. And so are there some alternatives as well that you've helped people find, the tax savings and the college benefits and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so we like to teach people about using a scholarship house to pay for college instead of the traditional 529 account. But we also really love to talk about tax scholarships. In other words, tax savings. We love tax savings because it's guaranteed free money. So like I said, it's hard to get financial aid. It's hard to get scholarships. But if you can save $100,000 a year on your taxes, or even $25,000 a year on your taxes, that will cover the cost of college for that year. And so we love tax savings. One of the benefits of getting into a short-term rental is the short-term rental loophole. It's the bonus depreciation and all those tax benefits. However, we've also done some creative options. We call them box houses, for example, where they have these box houses that are shipped in a shipping container, and then they come out of the shipping container and they fold out into a house, and they're made out of steel, and they are used in oil fields. They're used in towns where they're trying to put in data centers in these small towns, but they need housing for 3,000 people, or in disaster areas when there's floods and fires and hurricanes and tornadoes and all these things that wipe out a bunch of houses. They can ship in all these houses in these shipping containers and deploy them. And these houses are technically not considered real estate. So they follow a different tax code that's more along the lines of personal property. So kind of like buying yourself a G-Wagon for your business and offsetting your income by the purchase of the G-Wagon, you can buy one of these houses and offset your taxes by the down payment on the house. And then they rent them out and you get a massive tax benefit, huge tax savings. It's kind of like buying a short-term rental, or let's call it this. It's like buying a mobile short-term rental that gets transported all over the country, and or a midterm. We'll call it a midterm rental, right? It's like a portable midterm rental, but you own a house in a shipping container, but it cash flows and it's easy. It's like buying a house off the shelf. It's just easy.
That's super cool. I love that. Yeah, you don't get a pickleball court and a hot tub, but it is a little bit like you get the benefits of a short-term rental, and you're probably not going and staying in one of those yourself, but I've seen those for years. They have a lot of different applications, natural disasters, events, all kinds of reasons that people need those things. So that's pretty cool. Do you think that on the horizon, there are more kind of creative opportunities like that you and your team are exploring?
Yeah, this whole rabbit hole has led us down the tax mitigation, route. We've partnered with a lot of tax mitigation firms. They all have different tax strategies. Those are the ones that are kind of pertinent to this conversation. But there's others like solar, oil and gas. There's charitable, donations. There's a lot of different strategies. And of course, it depends on your level of risk and kind of what you're looking for and whether you're trying to offset active income or capital gains from selling a business. It kind of depends on what you're looking for, but there's a lot of tax mitigation strategies out there. And our take on it is hey, if you can reduce the cost of college, or if you can reduce your taxes, that money could either go towards college, or it could go towards your retirement, or it could go towards buying you a short-term rental.
Yeah, I love it, man. And so let's talk about your personal property, because you just bought something out in Panama City, right?
Yes, you came and visited me out there in Panama City. We talked about turning the garage into a 5th bedroom and putting in bunk beds, and that's kind of fun. We're excited about that project. I also bought what I would call a lifestyle asset last year. It's a cabin on the lake in Idaho. We love to go up there as a family and use the cabin for skiing in the summer and snow skiing and snowmobiling in the winter. And that's a house. I mean, we'll still rent it out, but we're also going to use it a lot. And then the house in Florida, that one is that's primarily
a short-term rental.
Yeah, primarily to make money. And then we've been recently picking up a couple new ones that I was just mentioning earlier in the Smoky Mountains. So I think we're up to 5 in the Smoky Mountains with other clients now. And then, yeah, we're growing.
That's awesome. Good for you guys, Lance. I love to see you grow. I love the creativity behind it. And really, it's probably a strategy that a lot of our listeners are kind of already doing, but it's just a totally different take on it and a different spin. And there's some huge benefits. So where do people find you guys? Where are you guys at?
collegefundingsecrets.com. collegefundingsecrets.com is our company. You can also go to scholarshiphouse.com and learn more about a scholarship house to pay for college at scholarshiphouse.com. And then later this year, we'll have scholarshipvacations.com where you can go and stay at a scholarship house. Support a kid's education.
I love it, man. We'll put links in the show description so everybody can reach out to you and connect with you. I got just a couple last questions. You ready for some rapid fire questions?
Yep.
Okay. You met Kevin Harrington from the Shark Tank?
Yes.
Dude, how did that come about? Because I saw you guys recorded some videos together. There was like a paid cameo you had to do. Did you get to actually hang out with him? Just tell me about that experience.
Hey, you can hang out with anyone if the price is right. His office reached out to me and said, hey, Kevin wants to get into the financial space and he loves the college. He loves the college angle and wants to talk to you. And so we did a little marketing together. And so it was kind of a fun little project we did.
Was he like a nice guy? Was he like, what was he like behind the curtains?
No, Kevin Harrington's awesome. He's a very nice guy.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, I know you've been doing a lot of traveling around the country and around the world. You got a great destination you've done locally that we all need to put on our list?
Oh, I just got back from Costa Rica. I'd never been to Costa Rica. Now, I don't know if that's local, but that was fun. I was highly recommended. I got a nice sunburn while I was there. Great surfing. They have great surfing. But yeah, Florida obviously is where we love to go to escape the cold. But crazy enough, this year in Utah, it's been warm. It's been weird. It's like springtime here.
We've had some cold weather here in Florida, but that's cool. So Costa Rica was definitely worth the trip?
That was worth the trip. Yep.
All right, last one. A good book, audiobook, paperback, something that you'd recommend that people can put into practice this year?
Yep. So my favorite book that changed my life, it allowed me to 10x my business, which will eventually 100x my business over this next year, has been Who, Not How. Who, Not How is the book by Dan Sullivan, and it is game changing. I've always been the type of person to do everything myself. We built this house and did a lot of the work ourselves. And I've just always been somebody who just does everything myself. And I've had to repent and be converted to focusing on who, not how. And it's all about surrounding yourself with people who can do things for you. And you stay in your lane. You stay doing what you're good at and let everybody else do what they're good at. That's changed my life. That's
awesome. I love that. I think the history on that book is I don't even think Dan wrote that book.
I
think he had somebody write it. He had who write it.
He did, Ben Hardy. Yeah, Ben Hardy was the one that wrote it with his information, and he made some commentary in there, but yeah.
That's really cool. Well, Lance, thanks for coming on, man. Great to chat with you. thank you for being a guest on the STR Investing Podcast. Guys, we will bring you another Monday morning data report next Monday, another guest speaker next Friday. Make sure to like, subscribe, and reach out to Lance if you want to chat with him. I'll put his information in the show notes.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.